Hey y'all, welcome back to the party. It is me, your girl, BrittReacts, and today we're going to react to some more of Brett Cooper from her new YouTube channel. This episode is 13, where she's talking about the growing regret among trans teens, and we'll talk about some more of this on the other side, okay? Let's see what she has to say.
So last week, I basically did my longest ever video in the history of Brett Cooper videos and did a recap on Trump's first month in office, and a huge portion of that video was talking about his executive orders. I think he has signed more executive orders in this first month than any president in history, and as you guys saw, I am a huge fan of basically all of them. But within this slew of executive orders with wide-ranging topics, there were 4 that addressed transgenderism, and I want to talk about those specifically today. Well, not just them in general, but about one issue in particular. And those executive orders, he did one that established that the United States only has 2 genders, which, it's a shock that even has to be established. He's also doing what he can to ban men from competing in women's sports. He is now keeping transgender members out of the military. And lastly, he cut federal funding for the chemical and surgical mutilation of children. And that is what I want to focus on today. And obviously, there was outrage over every single one of these 4 executive orders, and it feels unlikely as Congress stands right now that any of these will be passed as bills, even though I would love them to, considering that every single Democrat in Congress voted against passing a bill that would keep men out of women's sports just last week. And I want you to hear that again, every single Democrat. And that issue specifically, as we discussed last week, is not even controversial. Studies have shown that 70% of Americans on a baseline believe that men, biological men, should not compete against women. And these people that are in Congress that are supposed to represent us, that are supposed to represent that 70%, overwhelmingly, every single one of them voted no. So I think that just kind of gives you an overview of where our government stands.
I would like to just propose the question of why. Why would every single Democrat, every single one, no one thinks that men should not be able to? Why? I just want to know why. Is there something in the bill they don't agree with? Is it like, what is it? Why? I'd love to know. I've been clear on my stance about this and also about children being able to transition and being administered chemicals and drugs and all types of things to help them do that. So early last week or the week before, I was in the middle of filming a video. It was Jordan Peterson, and he was interviewing a young woman whose name I can now not remember, but she had detransitioned. And I got pretty deep into the interview, and then my hard drive crashed. That's happened to me only twice in my whole 2.5 years of filming. And one, you guys know I don't I don't edit my content. I don't start over. You get all the bloopers. But I couldn't retrieve the video that I had already, I think I was like 20 minutes in, honestly. I couldn't retrieve it. It had gotten compromised or whatever. And I wasn't going to then come back on camera and pretend like I hadn't watched the 20 minutes. So I had to just kind of flush that reaction and watch. I ended up watching the rest of the video just on my own time. This topic seems to be trending up. This feeling in the youth transgender community seems to be trending up, where these young people are regretting their decisions. And I thought it was, on Jordan Peterson's behalf, a really beautiful interview with a young lady. He asked really, really good questions, and she was really good at answering. They were tough questions, and she was really good at answering them. It was a really good conversation. So when I saw that Brett did an interview, I can't say I agree with Brett on everything. I can't say I like her because I don't know her. But I do take interest in her point of view. I think she has the point of view of a lot of Americans, a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives, a lot of Trump supporters. And in my opinion, no matter what you believe, you should know what's going on in the world around you and know what other people think, because it's not just about you and your way of thinking that is driving the world. So yeah, that is kind of how I got here. Hopefully this video will make it to YouTube and my hard drive, knock on wood, doesn't crash out on me literally. I sometimes take that as a sign that maybe God is blocking me from uploading something that could be divisive, because you guys know I don't want to do that, or hurtful in any way, or just anything negative. So I didn't even take it personal. I was like, all right, God, I guess we won't be uploading that next. All right, let's get back to Brett.
Right now. And so what needs to change in order to push any of these bills through to make these into law so that they can't just be undone by another president 4 years from now? Well, in my opinion, people need to be hit in the face with the facts about these procedures and the lasting effects that they have on people, specifically on developing minds, specifically on American children. And the thing is, changing people's minds on this is not an impossible feat. It is happening in countries around the world, just not here in America. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be joined by my good friend Chloe Cole, and we're going to talk about why America is so ridiculously behind on this issue. We're also going to break down the recent bombshell studies that should horrify Americans and jolt our government into action if they weren't so cucked by their own freaking flawed ideology. But before we get into all of that, make sure that you like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell if you want to stay up to date on every single episode. I also want to remind you guys that this is the last week to buy my exclusive launch merch. This is the merch collection that we created just for the launch, this launch period of The Brett Cooper Show. We have had an amazing first month. I'm so grateful for all of your support. I'm so grateful that you guys are so excited about the merch. So we're going to be closing those sales, and I'm so excited to get you all your hoodies and your hats and your t-shirts. Now, in addition to those executive orders obviously being a very relevant and pressing issue, this week also had Detransitioner Awareness Day. It was actually just yesterday, and Chloe, who is a detransitioner and who you will hear from in just a couple of minutes, among a few others, traveled to DC for an entire week of meetings and events to share their stories. And
y'all, there is a Detrans Awareness Day. That feels like a big deal. That feels like a big deal. And it doesn't feel anti-trans, which I'm sure a lot of people immediately will shut this down and call it anti-trans. This is just people who decided that they made the wrong decision and they went back to their biological gender. This is, wow. I don't know. Is this mind-blowing to you like it is to me? Mind-blowing.
Minutes, among a few others, traveled to DC for an entire week of meetings and events to share their stories and advocate for the protection of children and for the support that their community so desperately needs, that they're not getting from our government, from society, and most importantly and horrifyingly, not from the medical community. And this is obviously especially important because of the legislation that Trump and the Republican Congress want to pass, but also because of what is happening around the world. And that is why this week is why I wanted to talk about this today. I mean, guys, what I want you to know is that countries that are far more progressive than us, that were actually at the forefront of this issue many years ago, pushing this entire ideology, are now scaling back and realizing that it has been taken too far. That these awful experimental procedures and surgeries are actually not that great and not doing what they were promised. And this is on full display in the UK. And guys, it is just so gratifying to see the scientists and the academics and the experts finally hold themselves accountable after so many years and acknowledge their own biases through these studies, through their reports, which is something that you would see regularly if you were a student at Peterson Academy. And if you are not up to date on the best new academic platform out there, Peterson Academy is Jordan Peterson's new online university that is open for enrollment right now. And so if you are somebody like me who loves lifelong learning and wants to learn from the brightest professors in the entire world, or if you're somebody who has just ever benefited from Dr. Peterson's lectures and his incredible guests on his podcast, then this platform is for you. Every month, Peterson Academy releases 4 new in-depth 8-hour university-level courses that are taught by world-renowned experts and professors, and they are produced specifically to keep you fully engaged. This is not your normal boring college lecture. This is something totally different. They cover an amazing range of topics from philosophy to history to psychology to science to business to mathematics, complete with optional testing to further and deepen your understanding. Plus, they're continually rolling out new educational features as they continue growing the platform. There's also a built-in social community, which I think is so important, so that you can connect with and learn alongside like-minded people from around the world. So guys, if you are ready to challenge your intellect, to expand your horizons, and take control of your continuing education, it is time to go to petersonacademy.com/Brett. And guys, you do not have to be at a certain point in your life or a certain age to benefit from Peterson Academy. I think that this will be an incredible resource for homeschool families. This is something that I would have just been obsessed with as a teenager. It'll be great for college students who, like me, felt like they weren't really getting what they were paying for adults who feel like they're missing out on learning. There really is something for everyone. And it is only $599 per year or $59 a month to access all 31 8-hour courses with 4 new courses a month, plus the community with a 7-day money-back guarantee, but I highly doubt you will need it. I have been on Peterson Academy. I've been taking the classes. They are truly top-tier, high caliber. You guys will love them. And guys, best part, in my opinion, is that for that price, for $599 a year, you do not have to go out and take out some $60,000 student loan to further your education. Again, that is petersonacademy.com/Brett to get started and join Peterson Academy today. Now,
That's really cool. I had no idea, and I've been watching his content. Okay. I just wanted to stop and say someone commented about skipping ads on other people's content, and I loved what they said. They were like, it's just supporting I'm using Brett's content for my channel. The least I can do is air her ad to potentially bring her some additional support. I agree. So I won't be skipping ads anymore on anyone's. I don't do it often, just sometimes like there will be an ad that I had seen on another creator's. But anyway, I just appreciated that like kind of perspective, and I'm taking that as criticism, and I'm changing the way I do things. So I think that's a really cool platform. I wonder though, like, well, it's accredited. So like, do you get a degree at the end of it? Is it accredited? I don't know, child. It doesn't matter. Carry on.
Now, the latest bombshell example of this accountability, of this self-awareness, of finally being honest about these procedures, came out just a couple of weeks ago through the Oxford Journal. They released their findings after studying over 107,000 patients with gender dysphoria and found that, yes, unequivocally, those who underwent sex change surgeries, who went through with the entire medical procedures of transitioning, faced higher risks of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and substance abuse after undergoing those procedures. And this was released just on February 25th, 2025. And more specifically, this study found that males with gender transition surgery were 120% more likely to have depression and 388% likelier to have anxiety than males who had gender dysphoria without surgical intervention. Gender dysphoria females were 56% likelier to have depression and 48% likelier to have anxiety if they had undergone gender transition surgery. So obviously it is still an increase, but those numbers for men who underwent these surgeries, that is shocking. And obviously, as you saw, there is an increase for women, but that dramatic increase for men, that is horrifying. And for anybody who has been paying attention over the last couple of years, who has been following and advocating for this issue, those numbers probably don't shock us at all. I mean, I saw this report come out and I was like, of course the numbers increased. Obviously, that is common sense, because these surgeries and these procedures, they are a Band-Aid situation. They will never address the root problem. And so of course, there are going to be higher risks of depression and anxiety. And it's not just common sense that should tell us this. There are other studies like this. I mean, last year, a Finnish study found that patients who proceeded to gender-affirming treatments did not have a reduction in mental crises or suicidal ideation. That came out February 16th of 2024. They also found that usually, there were underlying mental health issues that needed to be addressed in addition to gender dysphoria that might have caused a gender dysphoria. In 2019, this is another crazy example. A Swedish study was done. This is a study that is now very well referenced in the LGBTQ community, and they found a decrease in mental health treatment after medically transitioning. But guys, less than a year after that report came out, that study, that key study that was now referenced everywhere, that was used to push this issue forward, shoved in our faces, was officially corrected. It was reanalyzed, and the American Journal of Psychiatry came in and clarified that, quote, the results of the reanalysis demonstrated no advantage of surgery in relation to subsequent mood or anxiety disorder-related healthcare visits or prescriptions or hospitalizations following suicide attempts.
Okay, so, I can't believe this is where we are in the world. I stand on doing whatever you want, being whoever you want, as long as you're not harming other people. I don't believe in treating people differently or poorly because they aren't who you want them to be, or they don't believe in what you believe in. I say that because I think a lot of times you'll see comments and people saying like, that is simply just mental illness. That's just mental illness. And it's like, whether that is true or not, I don't think it is our job to diagnose someone as needing, I don't know, any kind of mental illness. I think the best thing to do is either just be quiet if you don't propose any type of help, or educate yourself so that you can find a way to help and intervene. The young lady that was on Lord have mercy, Jordan Peterson's show, this was her thing. She was in counseling, and she went through the transition and found that it didn't change anything. And I do think before we prescribe anything or schedule any type of procedure, have we done the internal work? And this is a thing with, right, like breast augmentations or lipo. Like, most doctors should be at least giving you some type of survey to fill out about your mental health before you undergo any type of body transformation. If you're going to the right kind of doctor really cares about their patients. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like whenever I've been pregnant, there's like, every time I go to the doctor, it's like, have you been experiencing any of this, any of that? Because like, there should be some type of analysis on where you are mentally before you're prescribed a medication or anything like that. And to think that an outward fix is going to fix an outward change, something physically changing is going to eradicate how someone is feeling internally, it just doesn't make any sense to me why anyone, especially a medical professional, would find this to be a good idea. Right? We raise our children, we tell them, be a good person on the inside, right? Or like, some people can be ugly inside and beautiful outside. It's like all these ideas that we know to be true as human beings that have lived through internal turmoil. You know that you have to heal inside before anything outside matters, truly. So I just am so confused at why this is such an aha thing all of a sudden. It's like, yeah, we've allowed all these young people to go and disfigure themselves, and they come out of the surgery and somehow they feel the same. Or a year later, they feel worse. It's like, what? I just cry for our youth. I have 2 children, and they have friends, and they're all dealing with this. They're all having to learn how to navigate it. And then these questions, right? Like, as soon as they are made aware of this possibility, then they start questioning themselves and what they're thinking. And God forbid they have a bad emotional day. My 10-year-old is in the thick of the preteen emotional charged change, and just like these like wild outbursts emotionally, and these tantrums that it's like, it's very normal. But imagine like, I allow her, just off of one emotion of being upset, to go and change what she looks like or her genetic makeup. I'm sorry, I'm rambling now, but it's upsetting. It's upsetting to me. It breaks me, because it's just like all the things that the children of this world, the youth of this world have to face, all the things they're going to have to face growing and learning in this world. And now we're adding this. Sorry.
Healthcare visits or prescriptions or hospitalizations following suicide attempts. I mean, that is crazy. Again, 9 months later. Then in 2024, an American study was finally released, because all of this was done overseas, that also confirmed all of this. But their sample size was only of 1,500 patients, so obviously it did not get the attention or the credibility that it probably deserved. So basically, we, on the common sense side of this issue, and all of the researchers, have been saying this for years. We have been sounding the alarms. People like Chloe Cole, like Riley Gaines, have been sounding the alarms. But this new study from the Oxford Journal, with its magnitude, with its scope, with its size, and its damning outcomes, is pretty hard to refute. And my good friend Chloe, who you guys probably know is a teen detransitioner who started puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones at age 13, who then underwent a double mastectomy at age 15, agreed with all of this, and she came on the show to share the validation that a study like this brings to her and her entire community.
I mean, it really affirms not only my own experiences with going through the entirety of transition, especially the surgery, but also that of all of my other detransition friends who've also had these surgeries, and these other individuals who've reached out to me. and have gone through them. It's almost kind of vindicating that there are studies now that are showing the harms of what these surgeries do, not only physically, but also psychologically. And it really takes down this narrative that these surgeries are beneficial to the patient, that they create better outcomes for mental health and overall quality of life.
And I wanted Chloe to come on, and I wanted you guys...
I love her bangs. They're so cute. I like imagine now all the psychological things Chloe is still probably having to overcome. Now she's removed her she had a double mastectomy, I think, right? She said she hasn't, her breasts are gone, and now she's living life again as a woman. Not that your breasts make you a woman. There are women walking around who have undergone that procedure for many other reasons, but like now you've got to, I just feel like, could we have saved Chloe from all of this if we would have just, our nation, the voters, our community, our neighbors, if we could we have saved her from the transition, the detransition, and everything else? Could we be saving more children from having to now figure it out after the fact?
Is to hear her story, continue hearing her story, because it tells you why these studies, why all of these reports are so vital. Because parents are literally told that their gender dysphoric children will die if their parents do not help them transition. Many parents are threatened into agreeing to these experimental procedures purely based on fear and lies from psychiatrists, from doctors, and most importantly, from the media. This is what happened to Chloe Cole and her parents, and it is what famously happened to Elon Musk. This is why he cares so deeply about this issue. Just take a listen.
I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This was before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, Xavier might commit suicide if he
that was a lie right from the outset.
Incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
It was a complete lie. They literally said you must agree to this because you're...
So another video I reacted to recently, which part 2 is coming. Y'all have been like, can you finish the video? I will. When I watched the video of Elon on not Jordan Peterson, on Joe Rogan's podcast about why he got into politics, I think I thought that would be his reason, was his close personal story with the transitioning. So for those that don't know, and I think I'm the last person on the planet that didn't know, that Elon had a child, born a male, I think from his first wife. They have like 5 kids together. And the child transitioned to be female, and Elon was just explaining that essentially he was tricked. And I think the mention of COVID matters because there was so much going on during COVID. We were all being fed so much information daily. Things were changing that if you add that on top of that, there probably was some confusion. Then you say your child is suicidal, and the only way you're going to change this child's life is to just let this child to transition. It's like, as a parent, do you want your child as a different gender, or do you want your child unalive? Right. Okay. So I feel like I thought that would be his driving force. And perhaps it is, but it's not what he talked about on the podcast. So that was interesting to me. But I think, when you think about Elon going in and dismantling all of these departments and digging for money, how charged he is by some of that. I wonder how much of that is actually a part of his desire to really run Doge.
Your son will commit suicide if you don't. I mean, imagine putting that in front of a parent. Obviously,
during COVID,
parents are going to go along with it. They're not going to think that it's a lie, because why would doctors tell them a lie? Why would they use fear to push an experimental procedure on this innocent child? So I want you guys to know that, because when you hear the media freaking out that Trump is killing trans children, that he's doing all of this legislation that will kill trans people, that gender-affirming care is actually keeping trans people alive, I want you all to know that all of that is based on a lie. That is what these reports are telling us. So when you see headlines like this from the ACLU, doctors agree gender-affirming care is life-saving care. This is from USA Today. Gender-affirming care is life-saving, research says. Why is it so controversial? Well, it's controversial because the science isn't really on your side. You might have a couple of doctors that are on board, but it is objectively, scientifically controversial. Like, the jury has been out. We are now getting to an objective solution. I have my opinions on it, but there is now becoming more of a consensus. It objectively has been controversial because you guys have been telling lies. So gender affirming care saves lives is really an emotional fallacy that makes us easy, that makes parents and children easy to control and manipulate without having all of the facts. And so again, I have empathy for these parents. It makes sense that so many parents would hear this from doctors, from the media, from specialists, and be terrified for their kids and go, oh my gosh, I will do anything that it takes to keep my child from dying. I mean, who wouldn't do anything to protect their child? But this is anything but protection. I mean, protecting your kids is being proactive. It is caring about their holistic health from the beginning, which you can even start at home with their diet and lifestyle. And you can start doing that for your family right now with Good Ranchers, thanks to their Spring into Action deal. Good Ranchers puts family values and the health of American families first, just like you do. Their meat is born, raised, and harvested right here in the USA from local family farms so that you know exactly where it comes from. It is free from hidden additives, no antibiotics ever, no added hormones, no seed oils, just simple, trustworthy ingredients that you can feel good about feeding your family. And then, of course, we have where they really make life easier. Good Ranchers is delivered straight to your door. No more last-minute grocery store runs, long lines, or wondering if you're getting the best quality at your local grocery store, because with GoodRanchers.com, everything that you need to create healthy, delicious meals is just a click away. Their wide selection of pre-portioned, high-quality meat means less time at the grocery store, less time prepping, and more time around the table feeding your family nutritious foods. And if you want to see the Good Ranchers products that Alex and I love that we eat on a weekly basis, you can go to GoodRanchers.com/Brett to check out my exclusive box that I curated just for me and just for you guys. You can try my hand-picked selections that will make your life easier and healthier, and you'll be directly supporting American ranches from across the country. Again, go to GoodRanchers.com/Brett to shop my box today. And like I said earlier, right now Good Ranchers is running their Spring into Action promotion, which means that you can support local ranchers in America and easily get American quality delivered right to your door. So subscribe to any of their boxes, but obviously preferably the Brett Cooper box, and you will get free bacon or ground beef or seed oil-free chicken nuggets or salmon in every single order for an entire year. You also get to pick which one you want, which one works for your family. Plus, when you use my code Brett at checkout, you will get $25 off at checkout. That is high quality, clean protein in every order delivered to your door for free for an entire year. This is an incredible promotion. To spring into action and to help keep your family healthy while supporting American farms, visit GoodRanchers.com today, and don't forget to use my code Brett to claim your free meat and $25 off. This is truly the first step to keeping your family healthy and happy. Now, even though all of these studies that I've referenced at the beginning of this episode are incredibly important, especially that recent one from the Oxford Journal, just because of how huge the sample size is, and it should be eye-opening for people around the world, they are still, in my opinion, missing a huge piece of the puzzle. Because at the end of the day, if you read these reports, if you read these surveys, and then you get to their conclusions are still flawed. Like, the way that they interpret this issue, the way that they interpret the data and propose a solution is still dictated by their emotional ideology and this idea that we have to affirm, we have to affirm. For example, in that 2024 Curious study...
Does emotional response belong in the medical world in any way? Imagine your oncologist saying something to you and you know it is based off of emotion and not medicine. That is wild. Also, do we just affirm our children in everything that they want, even if it's not good for them? Should we be doing that? What kind of human, what kind of citizen, what kind of adult are you raising if you are just affirming everything they feel all the time? I tell my daughter all the time, you are allowed to feel whatever emotion you are feeling. I will never tell you you're not allowed to feel that way. It's I can't control that. I can't dictate that. But I can help you navigate those feelings. I can help you to get to a rational conclusion. I can help you in so many ways, but I'm not just going to affirm, oh, you feel like life isn't fair, then yes, life is not fair. And what can we do to fix it? No, baby girl. No. You're going to feel like life is not fair probably almost every day of your life at some point. But we don't just go off that, how that makes us feel emotionally. How do we get through it? How do we make it as fair as we possibly can? Like, why are we just affirming everything so quickly without, y'all, I struggle. This is such I don't know why this topic is so emotional to me. Like, just, I guess as a mother, it makes me feel emotional that, like, there are children in other homes that are dealing with this. It's another reason why I keep God so close, because, girl, what?
That was done in the States with a very small sample size. Their conclusion found that patients who have undergone gender-affirming surgery are associated with significantly elevated risk of suicide, highlighting the necessity for comprehensive post-procedure psychiatric support. Here we go, another one. In the Oxford Journal, this most recent one, they concluded that gender-affirming surgery, while beneficial in affirming gender identity, they're still propelling the slide that it's very good, we're affirming, that's very good, we're affirming, is associated with increased risk of mental health issues, underscoring the need for ongoing gender-sensitive mental health support for transgender individuals post-surgery.
Forever.
This is where the science and the protocol is still inherently flawed. I mean, we have all of these studies saying the same thing, that these risks are increased, that the surgeries do not actually do anything but make the situations worse. And their response is not to address these experimental, irreversible procedures that are obviously not working, but to say that they need more support after going through these surgeries that just clearly do not work, which in a way is still true, and we're going to get to that, but that is not the real pressing issue at hand, as Chloe said.
I guess the culture around these studies and the research around this was more focused on prevention of cases like mine, prevention of regret, and mitigating the risk of detransition as much as possible.
But this, of course, also doesn't have to be exclusive, because in her mind, in Chloe's mind, there should be a more holistic approach from when the patient comes in with gender dysphoria, with confusion over their bodies and their gender, and even after medical treatments, if they end up going through with it like she did at 15 years old, because in her experience, after her surgery, when she started experiencing regrets and confusion about what she had just done to her body, she received nothing. There was no support.
These researchers, these doctors, these providers don't really ask questions that are geared towards people like me or outcomes like mine of regret, of detransition, of choosing to go out the other way, and of this potentially not being the right path. I certainly was not asked that by my own healthcare providers. I was never followed up with about how I was doing emotionally, really. And when I would talk about my regrets and my negative feelings around the procedures that I'd undergone, especially the surgery, it was kind of treated like it was just a normal outcome, or that it just wasn't significant.
So what I'm trying to communicate here, and what Chloe is saying, is that these studies are correct in a way, that post-surgery care is necessary, and it's appalling that these young people especially are just thrown out into the world with no support when they're dealing with regrets and confusion, but that care, that real care, needs to exist from the get-go. And it needs to be care that is not wholly focused on affirmation, that doesn't just shove them in line for surgery, that again, we now know does not work.
Transgenderism is not an innate characteristic that somebody has. But the further that you look into a patient's personal history, any trauma that they might have, especially stemming from their childhood, any attachment issues, any familial issues, this is something that is completely psychological in nature. And this distress around one's body, around one's sex characteristics, is not just something that occurs in a vacuum. We need to be giving these people real support with their mental health, not telling them that they are something that they aren't, but also leading them down this path that is going to lead them.
Not telling them that there's something that they aren't, but giving them the mental support. This is coming from a human being that at age 13 began the transition journey and is now hit the Uno reverse and detransition. What other horse's mouth do we need to hear it out of, Democrats? Because we're talking about the Democrats who all voted against biological men playing sports with biological women. Who else do you need to hear it from that, like, This is a mental thing. It's not a physical thing. So you're not sending out new women. You're sending out men who in their minds think they're something else.
That they are something that they aren't, but also leading them down this path that is going to lead to them being sterilized, losing parts of their health and happiness and their ability to fully live their lives. And we need to be following a more holistic approach that's focused on the overall picture of their lives and their overall health and towards their longevity and their future.
When you hear people like Chloe speak, when you look at these reports, like how is this entire issue controversial? It makes no sense. I mean, this used to be a psychiatric issue that would be addressed as a psychiatric issue. Now there is just no nuance or even thought of prevention. It is just affirmation of an issue that is usually far deeper.
I mean, I think that for both sexes, it's a matter of psychiatric illness and distress. But for a lot of the women, I'd say that for a good portion of them, it comes from a place of normal pubertal or adolescent or early adulthood distress that just comes with growing up from a girl into a woman. When you look at the personal histories of the men, especially, they tend to have high rates of having been abused in the past, of having familial difficulties. What we actually need to do for these patients is, first of all, to not affirm these issues that they're having with their identity and not lying to their faces about who they are, not letting them believe that the issue is their body rather than the issues that they have in their life that are making them feel so negatively about their sex or around these parts of their bodies.
But of course, are those issues ever addressed?
I mean, as a teenager, I can't even tell you how many times I hated my body, hated the way I looked. I'm literally I could rattle off a list of things. And to the most extreme, I never felt like I shouldn't be a female, but I remember hating. I think we can all relate to that. Being a preteen, being a teenager is awful when it comes to self-esteem. It is the lowest. It is the worst time of life for majority of the human experience. But to the most extreme, to feel like I hate myself so much I should be another gender. Okay, fine. Let's say that is a normal feeling. That is okay. Let's just go out on a limb and say, fine, that's normal. But let's get you through. You're gonna get. This is just a bad. It just sucks right now in life, and you know what I mean. Why do we need to then affirm and let these children just can we get on the same page, America?
Rest? Are they talked about?
Sex around these parts of their bodies.
But of course, are those issues ever addressed?
No.
Are they talked about in the scope of transgenderism, especially with young people transitioning, especially with young women going through puberty? No, of course not. We're all just supposed to sit back and affirm because that is the virtuous, that is the morally correct thing to do. And if we don't, we are killing these people. It is insane. Now, the thing is, guys, as I said at the beginning of this episode, in other countries, this is not such a crazy idea anymore. Having nuance, focusing on prevention, they have caught up to the science. They're listening to the science. They are seeing the facts, and they have realized how insane this ideology has become. I mean, the United Kingdom and France both put restrictions on transitioning children back in 2022. The UK has now updated their restrictions as of 2024. I would not be surprised if they updated them again after this Oxford Journal study. Between 2020 and 2023, Finland, Norway, and Sweden all also put restrictions on transitioning children, which is hysterical in my opinion, because those three countries, all of these countries, are countries that the left often lauds and celebrates for their social welfare systems and their free healthcare and their inclusivity and their safety and their acceptance. And these are the exact countries that are saying, okay, guys, we kind of took it too far. We need to scale it back. Meanwhile, America, that is supposed to be the beacon of common sense and reality, is still being insane. And so obviously I wanted to ask Chloe her thoughts from personal experience about why she thinks that is.
In the United States, we're a lot more politically motivated. We're a lot more financially motivated. And those are the two biggest things that are why this has become so pervasive in different industries in the US, especially in healthcare, right? It's because it's become an ideological issue. The left has made it into a human rights issue, and it's also incredibly lucrative. It's a lot harder
lucrative. The surgeries,
right now,
the medicine
in the US to make these big strides to protect our own children and young patients from being subjected to this.
And I'm so glad that Chloe did not mince words in that statement, that she was so straight with everyone, and it could not be more true, and it could not be more disappointing. She is right. Follow the money, follow the politics. Those are the two reasons why this issue still exists and is so pervasive in America. And the response to all of these studies, or actually lack thereof, is proof of all of that. This is willful avoidance that we are seeing in the States, and it is doing irreversible damage to an entire generation of children. And of course, in light of Detransitioner Awareness Day, which again was just yesterday, we have to talk about the children who were experimented upon, and then who, like Chloe, were completely left in the dust and left behind, because that is truly what happens on a regular basis in this country. And if you guys didn't know, while we're talking about all these other studies about post-surgery, all of that, there are no concrete studies on detransitioners, especially not detransitioning children like Chloe Cole. And in my personal opinion, this is partially because of that willful avoidance that we were just talking about, but also because much of detransitioning happens without medical interventions. Like, doctors aren't even seeing these patients, so they aren't counting. They are not being studied. They aren't offered support or guidance in the first place, like Chloe laid out, like all of these studies laid out. They don't usually get their surgeries reversed, and in many cases that is impossible. They just kind of stop taking their hormones and they try to go back to living a more normal life, and they socially detransition. And doctors just aren't involved. They rarely see this take place, and the numbers are not available, which is such a travesty, because Chloe said that this is happening every single day. And so doctors just aren't involved. Doctors rarely see this play out, and the numbers are not available, which is such a travesty. Now, another thing that Chloe told me, which truly shocked me, is that not only do we not keep records of this, and not only do people often not go to the doctor for detransitioning, but there is also no standard of care if somebody comes into detransition. They don't even know what to do if you come in and you say, I'm not happy. This is what she said.
Detransition isn't really recognized even as a phenomenon within the medical community. There's no standards of care. There are not even any billing codes for doctors or nurses to use when dealing with those of us. So there's just not really much that they can do in the first place. Just how many
children, they can't even bill properly.
How many young men and women end up coming back out of the system and having outcomes like mine.
But what is so vitally important to remember is that just because doctors don't see them or won't see them does not mean that these individuals like Chloe do not exist.
We're kind of getting an idea with how many of us are kind of just like coming out of the woods and talking about our experiences in increasing numbers just online. Like, there are, I think, tens of thousands, if not more, detransition individuals who are on social media right now and on different platforms talking with each other and connecting over their experiences and trying to find help.
And that's
these
all
individuals
the
like Chloe,
have.
this entire community, especially of young people, they deserve attention and they deserve real care. Not affirming care, but genuine holistic care. They deserve to have their concerns and their regrets and their hopes heard at the bare minimum. And it's insane that when she went into the doctor and said, I'm not really happy with this, I'm confused, I'm regretting, they literally didn't even know what to tell her. They couldn't direct her to anything, just said, oh yeah, that's kind of normal. That's insane that they just turn people away and say, yep, sorry, that's normal. It is insane that that does not happen in the first place. But based on everything that Chloe has been saying, it makes sense, because again, it's politics and money. And detransitioners like her do not help either cause. They don't make the industry more money. They don't push the ideology forward. And that is why it is so important that stories like hers are heard. Like, I just want you all to realize that there is more attention and care and focus over whether we wear our retainers after we get our braces off than how you are doing in life after you chemically and surgically try to change your entire gender. That should not be the case.
Never.
That is certifiably insane, and it begs the question of why. And so I know that I am really hammering this issue hard. I know that this is probably not the most pleasant episode, and it's more of a doom and gloom thing. But like I said, there is a lot of hope. It's just not
Somebody's
in the U.S.
Barely
anything is happening in the U.S. other than Trump's executive orders, which again, I'm not sure if this current Congress will be able to pass. Another good thing is that there are currently 27 states who have imposed restrictions or full bans on transitioning minors, but there does need to be something on a federal level. This is a federal issue, but obviously that is still an uphill battle. So what needs to change in order to make that happen? Obviously, I think Americans are on our side. 70% of Americans think that men shouldn't be competing in women's sports. That would obviously make you think that the majority of Americans think that this is a ridiculous issue, a dangerous issue that has been pushed way too far. But our government is not listening. Now, Chloe referenced all of the studies that we covered in this episode. She also covered one that we did not, which is the prolific Hillary Cass report out of the UK. And she said that we need one that is just as much of a bombshell right here in the US. We cannot really base this and change people's minds off of a study that only has 1,500 participants. Even though that still was a shocking and damning survey, we do need something like Hillary Cass and like this Oxford Journal study. A bombshell study that is all-encompassing, that includes detransitioners in their story, one that is simply too big for people to ignore. And Chloe really believes that in addition to all of the advocacy work, all of the stories that she and so many others are telling, that will be the way to change the culture in a massive way. And I simply could not agree more. I think that she made an absolutely fantastic point. But for now, for those of us who do not have the power to start a study that covers hundreds of thousands of participants and covers detransitioners and figures out a way to study detransitioners, for those of us normal people who just care about this issue, the most important thing that we can do is to continue sharing the stories of people like Chloe, to continue spreading this message. And another thing that I want you guys to think about and to consider that is possibly more important than anything else I have said in this entire episode is that you need to keep pouring into and supporting the people in your lives that are struggling.
Children,
because real care, not affirmative social justice care, it begins at home. In our communities, with the people that we touch on a daily basis. It is the kind of care that is truly loving, that is truly empathetic, that is preventative, and actually addresses the root causes of all of these issues. And above all else, that is what those of us as individuals who feel very small in this huge monster of an issue, that is what we can focus on, and that is the change that we can make in the world.
I loved the way she closed that out. I couldn't agree anymore. The work starts at home, in our community, and it's so important to take care of yourself and love yourself so that you can take care of those and love those around you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this while trying to remain kind and not shaming or putting people down or just erratically screaming, it's a mental health issue. It's like, okay, we figured that out, but like you screaming that isn't helping. So what can we all be doing to help? Keep cute, put it on mute, be kind, share your opinions, and go and have the day you deserve. Bye.